Hey folks, I'm going to talk to you a little bit today about a recent case which luckily was just dismissed today. Last Friday I argued a motion to dismiss. I'm going to tell you a little bit about this story because it's quite frankly it's ridiculous that it took this long. We've been working on this case for close to a year, I guess about 9 months now. Client comes in, had been out at a nightclub. Him and his girlfriend and some friends were out, and his girlfriend and someone else, another female, got into an altercation. And apparently the other female punched his girlfriend in the face, causing her nose to bleed. The girl who committed the battery runs out of the club. My client runs out and knows that there's a police officer on duty doing a detail or whatever. Basically, there's a police officer on premises. So he gets his wallet, takes out his driver's license, he walks over to the police officer and says, listen, my girlfriend just got hit in the face by the girl and she's running that way. Here's my ID, my name is blah, blah, blah. And the officer, instead of going, okay, well, tell me what's going on, pushes him and pushes him back probably about 5 feet. Now, this is a big officer, but luckily, my client's a big, physical guy and was able to take the jolt without falling down, but he ends up falling backwards, but catches himself. Well, obviously, my client could have fought back, but he wanted to do things the right way. He's a professional. So he called 911 and he asked for another officer to be sent to the scene, a supervisor of some sort. Supervisor comes out, he explains the situation. The officer doesn't care. He says, look, I'd like you to write a separate report. No, I'll just include something in the report with, your girlfriend. Basically, they blow him off. So what does he do? He goes home. The next day, he contacts Internal Affairs. Right? Now, he does this thinking that he'll get some help. Right? Internal Affairs, right, in the movies and all this, they're supposed to be the separate entity and they really investigate. Guess what, folks? It's BS. What do? They ask him to write a report. He writes it. He explains to them exactly what happened. Hey, I'd like to report a crime. And the cop pushes him. I don't know who the F you are, the cop says. And ultimately, they say that they're doing some investigation. A month or two later, they ask him to come in the office, even though they have a videotape. It shows the officer battering him, right? That's what's called in the state of Florida battery. When you touch someone, punch someone, push someone against their will, without their consent, it's called a battery. They could clearly see it on video. They have the investigatory resources to do the task to investigate. But no, what they do is they have him come in and then they ask him very select questions. Well, did you fall to the ground? Did your friend fall to the ground? He's like, well, no, I fell backwards. I fell to the ground. Now, they didn't show him the video. But of course, when they showed the police, right, the police officers that were investigated before, they gave their sworn statements. They're like, the Internal Affairs investigator goes, here you go, officer, here you go, officer, here you go, officer. And he hands them the whole file against them, including the video that shows. So it gives the officer an escape clause, right? I mean, well, I can watch everything, I see everything, so now I can tailor my testimony in a manner which will allow me to get out of it. Well, they don't afford my client the same comforts. They don't give him anything. They don't show him anything. They don't let him read anything. All they do is say, okay. So he says to the police, supposedly while under oath, that he was pushed and fell to the ground. Now, guys, it doesn't matter, right? Because if you have a fight in the street and you're not a police officer, if you touch somebody against their will, it's a battery in the state of Florida. So it doesn't matter if he pushed them and then he fell to the floor. Just like it doesn't matter if the officer would have punched him in the face, it's the same thing as a push. If he punched him in the face and he got a bloody nose, it's the same thing. A battery is a battery is a battery. So what does Internal Affairs do? Internal Affairs files an arrest warrant and has my client arrested for perjury. Perjury. Now, they see that a battery occurred, but according to police procedures and protocol, right, my client was standing at a distance of 4 to 6 feet, which allows, per policy, for the officer to push him to create a safe distance. So keep in mind, folks, if you're standing between 4 to 6 feet from an officer, he's allowed to punch you, push you to keep you away from him. My client wasn't coming at him in an angry manner. He's pointing over, hey, the girl's getting away, here's my ID. 4 to 6 feet away from the officer, but that's okay. So they arrest my client for perjury. Because he's a professional, they file documents with the professional agency to, obviously have his license pulled or removed. Basically, they file a complaint against him in his known occupation, but they also have him arrested. So now he's arrested and he's facing a perjury charge. That's a pretty serious thing. So we go to court and we go back and forth, and there's offers of diversion and different things to do. But my client doesn't want to do that. My client, all he wanted to do was to make sure that that officer doesn't do it again to the next person. Doesn't want someone else to get battered worse. Doesn't want someone to get knocked down and his head cracked open because, we have a bull for a police officer. Back and forth. No resolution. So what do? My office files what's called a motion to dismiss, which basically means all the facts that they allege we have to agree with, but say as a matter of law, it's still not a crime. And ultimately, that's what we did last Friday. It was a motion, it was a little over an hour, basically just legal argument. No testimony because there's a video, there's statements on both sides already, but it's a back and forth because if you lose that, now you're faced with a trial, and when you go to trial, you're facing jail or some sort of incarceration. So there's a lot of risk. Also, for this client, it would affect his professional occupation. So again, I already mentioned he's a professional, so they filed a complaint there. So folks, today's a great day. It's just a great day because you get to actually do it the right way. I'm not an advocate of going out and beating up police officers. Some of them probably deserve it. A lot of them probably deserve it. But we have to talk. We need to get in the courtroom and do it the right way. Hopefully now that we've won the case has been dismissed, now my client can go after the city and the police officer and file a civil suit for money, right? And maybe that'll make a difference. Maybe they'll retrain this officer. Maybe they'll fire this officer. Some people go, well, it's just a push, Mr. Foley. I mean, it's not really violence. Yeah, you know what? But if I touch a police officer, I'm going to get battery on a police officer, a third-degree felony, right? But it's okay if an officer puts his hands on me when I'm not even a suspect of a crime. I'm actually reporting a crime. Unbelievable what's going on with police forces across the country. And luckily today, we had a victory. The judge, who was a former prosecutor, listened to all the evidence, listened to all the legal argument, and made a decision finding that, in fact, there was no crime committed by us. Still doesn't mean that a crime wasn't committed by that police officer, but the police department has already investigated and found the charges not to be substantiated, as they say. So do you think the guys in blue are covering each other's rear end? You bet. You bet. But guess what? Today's the first day. It's a victory. And now my client can get the civil remedy and he can file suit against the department and move on from there. So I'm a very happy guy today as an attorney because a lot of times you hear very good motion, respectfully denied. And we don't want to hear that when it comes to officers who are committing crimes on citizens as they're reporting a crime. Anyway, I'm Roger P. Foley. Thanks for listening. This is my story about fighting back against police.